All right, Cincinnati. So Matt Howe with FCA here, and excited to have one of my good friends, Scott Clemmons, Varsity Football Coach out at Edgewood High School. And he's joining me today to talk a little bit about kind of he and his family and their response to this whole COVID-19 thing. But before we roll into all of that, Scott, why don't you just take a second and kind of introduce yourself to our audience here?
How's everybody doing? Scott Clemmons, Edgewood High School head football coach, intervention specialist at our high school. A little bit about myself. I'm from Edgewood. Started kindergarten out here all the way through till I graduated. Went to college a little bit. Lived in Hamilton for a little bit, and then moved back out here to Edgewood Community in 2003. Met my wife at that point too. Coaching, she was finishing up college. So this is our roots. You know, this is where we're from. It's where she's from. From there, so. Go back a little bit. I, finished high school, did some college, and got into the workforce a little bit, and got in the business side. So kind of gave up to college for a little bit and, did business world, but I got the opportunity still to coach football. So in the fall of 1998 was my first year of coaching sports. I did junior high football for 3 years, then moved up to high school football. So I've been doing football since the fall of 98 as an assistant. And then 2012, got the opportunity to become the head football coach here at Edgewood. So I tell the kids this, and everybody listening, when you're a young kid, you get those chances. When you grow up, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? Being Edgewood football coach as an assistant was, that was fine with me as my dream and goal. I just did coaches I had growing up as youth coaches and high school coaches just made an impact on me. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a coach and help young men out. So, got the opportunity to start coaching. Moved up through the ranks, did junior high ball, freshman ball, and then onto the varsity side of football. And the great thing, like I said, I met my wife through football, which, made it great because she came from a family that's, sports enthusiasts and crazy about sports also. She's also actually the varsity cheer coach for the high school team and does the competition cheer team. And so it all goes together with us and our family as far as the Edgewood community, what it means to us, paying it back and being part of sports, being part of kids' lives, not just, on the sports side, but being in the community, teaching, living here. We live in the community, right in the cul-de-sac with everybody else. I got players on both sides of me, 2 young men that, since we lived here, came up through the system and they're seniors this year, have been players for me. So, we live right here with our players, their parents, and their lives and stuff. And we feel like that's key to embed yourself in that community that you're in. And, you see your families out at stores and, at other sporting events. If Edgewood's playing a sport somewhere throughout the year, we're there a lot. We spend a lot of time there. Our daughters enjoy it also. They like going to the sporting events, seeing the high school kids, boys and girls both play, being part of it. Also, so that's just where we're at. We have 3 beautiful young daughters. It's great having daughters. It's everybody's like, you got 3 girls. Yeah, I know I'm a football coach, but I got 3 daughters. But every year I get somewhere between 90 to 100 young men that I get to help guide. So it's great having those girls at home, and it's been great to parent them through sports also, because you kind of learn early on as a young coach when you don't have children. You don't understand the parent side of the parent's view of their children or to the coach, and you're like, well, I just don't understand why they don't see that. Well, they're not yours. You coach them, you love them that way, but there's a difference. So I think for me as a coach, how my daughters now and how I view parents' views and the players' views on things have changed my eyes a lot as a coach, because having my own daughters now and seeing them and then letting them be coached by other people too, and realizing that's your coach and that's your job. That they're the coach for the reason, and that BCD and all that stuff, you don't let your children do. And I don't like that, coach. I don't like, well, that's not the point. You're playing a sport, they're your coach. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing through that coach. So that's just who we are. Like I said, we love being out here, love the community, love being part of it. We always will, no matter whatever happens in this coaching thing, this dream that I get to do every day. Every coach knows it comes to an end at some point, but Edgewood, Trenton community is who we are, and we'll always be here and supporting no matter who it is or what's going on in this community.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about, so you grew up there. There's no place like home, right? So football growing up versus like football now, as far as the community's response, has it always been kind of a football town where Friday night everything kind of shuts down and everybody joins together at the stadium, community comes together? Is that something you've seen evolve over your time as a coach there? Just talk a little bit about kind of how football is received there in the community where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, football's always been kind of the staple of this community. I think, once again, just blue collar town. It was something, that every family just, they honed in on. Even during, like, for my years, the 80s in the history of our Edgewood football program, the 80s weren't the greatest years, in the program. They had good teams, good players and stuff. But, the wins, that people talk about on scoreboard didn't always help, but there was great men that played in the program and went on, did great stuff, and coaches that did too. Just the wins and losses weren't there. So, I mean, I didn't get to see the glory days of the 70s teams. I know a lot of those guys now, get connected with those. That was kind of the start of the school. We're just still young in the sense of we just celebrated 50 years of Edgewood. We had a lot of communities that came together and formed this district. 7 Mile, Jacksonburg, and Trenton came together and formed a school in 1970.
Okay.
So it's still relatively young. In the 70s groups, they had great success and great players. Also, then kind of got in the 80s and, different things changed. There was quite a few coaching changes throughout the 80s. So not that we went and saw winning teams, it was still just the community, the families, out there. And, you got to know those guys and relate to them. And we had great youth programs too. We had a lot of dads, in the community that were policemen, firemen, worked at AK Steel, that, that did a great job coaching. I mean, for me, I had 2 youth coaches that didn't even have sons. They had daughters. They were out there coaching young men and stuff like that. So, I mean, there was people like that just, small community, cared about kids, what we did, what we were being part of, and, those life lessons. So, football was, kind of thing that, we played over at the park on Saturdays. It was always crowded. You went to Friday night games, it was always crowded. I mean, that's where everybody, when you was at school, junior high, waiting on Friday during fall, you didn't ask. I mean, everybody knew what you were. I mean, if you wasn't going to a football game, everybody, what's wrong with you, kind of stuff. I mean, it's just how it's kind of always been, and it always does. And it's great to see that, because I know for myself, growing up from here, to look up in the stands and hear people talk, you see people to really respect and admire as a young kid. Those families that still come out to the games and support you. That, I mean, their kids have been. And there's folks in our community that they haven't had a kid on that field since the late 70s, out there playing, and they're still showing up at games. They email you like, hey, coach, make sure you send me that schedule, or how's things going, or, they see it at the store and they talk about it, and they still come out, and they give you the support. And, it rightfully so in our community. I mean, that's the expectation of our football program, and they're rough on you and they're honest. They're good truth tellers. When we're not good, they let us, they let me know, that they're not. And then I understand that, because like I said, they work hard, they take pride in this program too. And that's the expectations they have, is for us to put winning teams out there to, for our community.
Yeah. So if I show up at a barbershop out there, not that I have much of a need for a barbershop these days, but if I show up and I want to talk a little Edgewood football, there's bound to be a guy there that's gonna talk with me, right? Like,
yeah, we don't. That's the thing, is we don't really have like those old-fashioned barbers in this small town anymore. It's kind of strange, but like Todd's IGA, that's kind of the hangout for everybody. So if you go into Todd's on a Friday or Saturday morning, some of his coaches going to get sandwiches in the morning, or donuts, or coffee, or I don't drink coffee, but the other coaches, or something to drink. And if we win, you hear good conversations coming from the tables of the guys there. And if we lose, that they're armchair quarterback. But I can tell people, I mean, rightfully so. I mean, I try not to, but on Saturdays watching the Irish play, or Ohio State, or Sundays watching the big, you get lulled into that. Like, what are they doing out there? They pay their price of admission. They have their opinions, and that's theirs. Right. And that's who they are. So, like I said, I love it because they have a passion for it. I guess that's, it's not like you're walking into a town and somebody says football and they're like, I don't know, how is the football team? I like that you go in our community and you say, how's football team? And, they're going to say, well,
they're going to tell you.
They're going to tell you about it. Our basketball coach, he's a great guy, John Thomas, and he always laughs. It's kind of a joke with us. I can win the league championship in basketball, and somebody, sitting there, hey, congratulations, coach, won the basketball championship. How's football team going to be next year? It's kind of a joke with us, because they had a great season this year. Our boys basketball program had a great season, and it was still kind of the joke. John would see me in the hallways, or we'd be talking, and I was like, tell them how great they're doing, keep up the good work. And he'd always, hey, how's football taking me next year? I'm like, would you stop? So it's a good joke and all that, but it's who we are. And like I said, that's the part I really love and enjoy, is the passion the people in this community have for it and the way it brings us together.
Yeah. So who you are as a man of faith, that's why we got you here with us with FCA, and you attend our coaches huddle that we've been doing. And I know you've been involved with FCA out there at Edgewood. And so talk to us a little bit about kind of your philosophy as a high school boys varsity football coach, as also being a man of faith. Like, is there anything different about the way you approach coaching, or the style of coaching that you use, or the way you interact with your players, just any of that, based on the man of God that you are?
I think what the biggest thing it helps me is realizing that each one of these kids have their own walk. They have their own, who they are as individually, as people. And I'm everybody talks about, well, see a player's coach. I consider myself, you probably ask my players. I mean, I'm a player's coach. I'm big on the, Miss Andy Olds, guy I look up to tremendously. Talks about that. I'm a hugger. I'm a pat on the back guy. I mean, I'm a relationship. I'm more, if you probably hear my players, talk about me and who they are, stuff like that. Usually my conversations with them is 90% of the conversation we have doesn't deal with football. It deals with, their grades, where they want to go after life, how's their family doing, how's everything else. It's not the football side of life for them. I think football is a great vessel for life lessons for us to teach them. But my thing is about relationships. We talk about, the Bible, with Jesus and the different things about relationships, with his disciples and the people. I think sometimes we lose sight of that. We have such a small windows for these young men. And I always tell people, for me, for a coach, the thing that hits home is, being a high school coach this many years now, being the head coach, is those calls you get or those texts you get, those guys that's been out, 15 years now, 14 years, 13, and they're texting you, they're having a child, they're getting married, they're inviting you to their weddings, they're having struggles in life, and they reach out to you, late night texts with, they need help, or they need some insight, or they're just looking for something. So that for me is that part of, that walk for me is trying to represent who I am and showing them that faith. I don't, different coaches, I always try to use it, because I think for us, I think in a public school setting, you always got to watch how you're handling those stuff too, because, people take it the wrong way or whatever on there. So, you always kind of have to kind of figure out where that relationship's going in those talks and go before you kind of start talking about that faith. But once you get those, that in with those kids and those things, they kind of see who you are. They realize, I don't hide where I go to church. They know I go to church. We talk about meetings or times, if you're going to text me on a Sunday, I won't be able to get back to you immediately because I'm in church. My family's going and stuff. And they hear us talk about those things we do at church and go on and different things like that. So for me, it's, using that as, as a tool that they see it. They understand we're talking about not openly talking in their face with it. It's that they realize there's a relationship that can be had with somebody that's bigger than them, that, there's struggles in life, and you're going to need some help. And, that's a good vehicle at that point to realize, there's somebody out there that's going to listen to you, that loves you out there, that, that can help them with that faith. And so something that for my wife and I, it's just it's that walk that we have as far as, who we are as people. And, church is the foundation of our marriage. It's the foundation of how we raise our children. So, but for me, I look at the players that way with that as, each of them's individuals, each have their own struggles and they're who they are. And it's my job to kind of, is to guide them and be there for them whenever they need something.
Yeah. And I would say, you're exactly right in that even though you may not be having direct conversations with some of those young men, they see something in you that's different, and that's what Jesus talks about when he says, be the light of the world, right? I don't think it's always about us having direct sit down, open up the Bible. Let's really talk about scripture, but sometimes it's just about our actions, right? And the way we carry ourselves and the way we treat our spouses and our children and our players and the way we conduct business from the sideline and the locker room and the weight room. And I mean, obviously your players see something in you that's different. And so I'm sure there's more often than not, they're getting a message loud and clear that you may not even know you're giving, so
Yeah.
just really respect you and appreciate you for that. So being a player's coach, what has it been like in the midst of COVID-19 where all of a sudden sports have been kind of shut down and you've been locked in your house and they've all been locked in their homes? And how are you able to still connect with these coaches or with these players, be relational with them, connect with them through this pandemic?
Yeah. And that's what, you talk about, a couple weeks ago at our FCA meeting in the morning. I mean, I was honest with you guys I went through a, period. I mean, I was struggling just because being that relationship guy, it wasn't, as a coach, I think as a coach and as a teacher, when your kids are your priority, whatever, it's what you don't know, what some of these young people are having to go through at home and what they deal with daily at school is supposed to be the safety of their community. They go in that school, they understand there's people there for them, they're being fed, it's safe during that time, and they don't have that. That was my worry, was those players that don't necessarily have that daily, what their lives going through. And then, for me, just being around them, I enjoy being just, being in the hallways, being in the classroom, with the players and stuff. So not being with them and stuff like that. Like I said, I went through a couple, some depression. But, I kind of got, it's got good because, we do Google Hangout meetings, Zoom meetings, weekly with them. We had ones this morning with the position players and stuff. So just all that communication, text messages with them back and forth, during the day, I'll send messages out to a couple of them here and there, or, a group of them, just, staying connected with them all that way. So it's been hard, but then, even last night sitting there, still thinking, am I doing enough? Am I doing, and then there was a coach that actually sent a tweet out, people were complaining about this. He said, we better realize, and as a Christian, it really made me dawn on, because I am loving the time with my family and not taking actually that time to thank God for the time that I'm getting with them right now. And he's like, we're all complaining that. He said, but, my family's eating 3 meals a day together. We're talking to each other. And it's like, yeah, I can't be complaining right now about what bad's happening, because I'm getting time with, the people that really matter to me, my wife and my kids. So that really hit home with me last night, to think about that is, the time I'm getting to spend with, because my wife and I were talking, 2 weeks ago when this all went down, is, this time of year, my twins are on the softball team that I coach. My oldest daughter's moved on to a select team. She'd been practicing 3 nights a week, weekend tournaments. My twins would have been practicing 2 or 3 nights a week, games. I mean, we probably wouldn't have, maybe one Sunday would have probably been our only day of church and sitting down as a family, to be together. I mean, all the rest of those nights would have been running, with football and softball, and, my wife with, stuff she does too, with cheering and, running the girls from softball too.
Yeah.
This time of year, we wouldn't have been together. It would have been a lot of, coming and going and seeing each other at nighttime to bed, and not seeing each other until maybe 7 or 8 o'clock the next night. Now we're getting to spend a lot of time together. We get on each other's nerves every once in a while. So, in the house, the great thing I think my girls have learned in this time is social distancing for themselves in the house. They get mad at each other. They take breaks. They've learned that their bedrooms aren't a bad place to be for a couple hours by themselves to, kind of know who they are as people. So it's been good. We come together, do things, or, they'll go do their thing for a while, and we'll do things as family, but we're here together in the house and enjoying each other's, companionship.
Yeah. Kind of like you, a couple weeks in, I think my question that I kept asking over and over again switched from the question of when is this all going to be over, to what are you wanting to teach me, and what are you wanting to show me now? And I think it's so important moving forward that we kind of keep that in perspective. Like, I don't want to get to the end of this pandemic and the floodgates to open up and everyone to be released back into quote unquote normalcy, and to have missed what God might be wanting to show me or teach me or do with me right now in this season of stillness and quiet and things kind of slowing down. And like you said, I mean, all my kids would be involved in spring activities right now as well. And I got 4. And I mean, it would have just been total chaos. My wife teaches, I'm full time, so the fact that we're eating dinners around the table and taking walks every day. I mean, our dogs love it, right? They're not engaged during the day, so they're living the dream. So
yeah. And that's the thing about me. I mean, I'm not a patient person. I mean, we laugh. I mean, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not, but I'm not a very patient person. And so, I mean, I think I've got a lot better, here, with this too, is, patience and understanding. Used to, I'd walk in and, a baby doll was on the floor, it's like, where's that supposed to be? I have my moments still, but I mean, it's taught me a lot more patience and understanding, and, not getting excited over things that are small in the grand scheme of life, that now it's like, hey, it's the girls, it's who they are. And, I take a deeper breath now, like, what's the big deal? It's a baby on the ground.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely, man. Well, hey, brother, I really appreciate you joining us. If you would do one more thing for me and voice a prayer over our city, over your players, over coaches and athletes across the city, I'd really appreciate that.
Yep. Okay. Dear Lord, come to you tonight and just pray for those players and coaches out there that, once again, we're all trying to figure out how quick we can get back to what we feel is, the most important thing. But I think we're all starting to realize, if we take this time to realize what's important is our families, you finding time with you every day, taking that stillness, taking in that part of find out who we are too along this walk of as a person, and the things we need and the things we want out of life. And we look for you for that guidance during this time. And I pray for those that need help, that need to seek it, that the churches and the schools are there for those people, and that they seek that help and they get the help they need from those organizations, and that they kind of put pride aside, realizing that, we all need help. And that's why the communities of church and the community of school are here for these communities. And I pray for our world leaders. I think it's a time that we're realizing as Americans also that it's not about bickering and who gets the credit for who, whatever this is over, or whoever solves this, whatever. Lord, it's about humanity throughout our world, and not just this country. It's for all of us in this world, Lord. And we pray that they all come together and realize that the importance of you, the importance of humanity for all, human lives are all important, no matter where they're from or where they come from. Lord, that they come together and they find a vaccination for this. And sometimes, Lord, people think small, where only this many people's died, but every life's precious, every person's precious in your eyes. So they're all important to us, Lord. So we lift them up, the world leaders. We lift up the doctors, and can't say enough about the doctors and the nurses, the amount of work they're doing every day, having to go to work and the things they're having to see, coming home to families that, it's different. People don't realize that. So lift those nurses and doctors throughout the world that are having to deal with this on a daily basis and having to see death in the face. That's not who we're supposed to be as people of this world. And so we lift them up, praise you, and love you. Amen.
Amen. Hey, thanks a lot, Coach, man. Appreciate you joining, and we'll be praying for you and your family, and look forward to maybe getting over to Edgewood this fall and watching a game.
Appreciate it. Hey, you guys are superintendent's an old Edgewood guy.
Aha, did not know that.
Mr. Prebles?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, heck of a football player back in the day.
Okay, well, next time I see him, I'll tell him he got a shout out.
Yeah, tell him I gave you one.
All right, sounds good. Hey, thanks,
All right,
Scott. Appreciate you, buddy.